Right? Wait, no. Can you hear me now with the mic? There we go. Great. First of all, I want to say welcome. I've never done this before, but this is a great turnout. A lot of people. Before we get started, we have some things to announce. First, gotta announce the location of one of the best places to have in a building, the bathrooms. So, one of the bathrooms is right down there, that hallway. There are two all gender bathrooms to be used. So they're right there, and I know in the cafeteria, not in the cafeteria, but where the cafeteria connects to the screen printing area, or B19, there are also bathrooms. And it says on the map there are accessible bathrooms also around the entrance. I haven't seen them, but they're probably there, so you can probably find them. Next, I want to thank the entire planning team for planning this meeting. You can't have a meeting without people planning it, so that's great. I also want to thank the school for giving us this space. So, all thank yous aside, we have to get into the themes and objectives of the conference. The theme of the conference is Powered by the People, Collective Power for Collective Liberation. And our objectives, other than to, enjoy ourselves here for this conference, are learning how to build collective power for collective liberation, very related to the theme, building relationships to sustain ourselves and sustain our education justice movement in Vermont, cultivating joy and giving us energy to do this work, sharing skills, lessons, and learnings to transform our schools, love that one, lifting up and attending to issues that impact our students and our community. And of course, to, enjoy our time here. Got a lot of it. Running a little late, but that's great. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juno Rich. My pronouns are they, them, or ella in Spanish, and I am an intern for the Education Justice Coalition. Thank you. So I will be sharing the agreements for the day. We want to encourage everyone to get their needs met through the day. Feel free to get up for food, bathroom, or just to move around. We're trying to encourage everyone to take care of themselves today. We're going to practice kindness, listening, respect, and courage, the idea of impact over intent. Oops, ouch. This means to speak up if things are not feeling right and to address harm in the moment. Curiosity and willingness to learn and grow. Confidentiality, when personal stories are shared, we're going to ask to lean into discomfort, recognize non-closure, and speak your truth equitably, knowing it's only part of the truth. And now I'm going to pass it for access notes.
Hello, I'm Indy. My pronouns are they, them. And I just have a couple of things about access notes to share. So we are all wearing masks, I believe, and I'm just going to ask everyone to keep them on when you're not eating or drinking, just trying to keep our germs to ourselves. And also, please try to project your voice loud enough so everyone can hear you as you're going through the workshops. And that's it. And I'm going to pass it to whoever's next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dana. I'm the equity coordinator for this district and a core member of Education Justice Coalition. I'm going to tell you about our space here today. There's the map. There's the map. So pretty much you go to, well, here's where all the tabling will be. There's also going to be fun t-shirt making behind the cafeteria. There's going to be poetry. All of the workshop classrooms, when you go out of the cafeteria, you make a right, and then the library is there for, that's gonna be the quiet room and the prayer room, and then right around the corner is the youth space room, and then right down that hallway in the high school are all of the workshops, and they're labeled. So I think that should be easy, but if you need help, just ask one of us in a yellow bandana. And also, it's really important that you only put food in the compost this year and not the compostable napkins, plates, or cutlery. And if you cannot move chairs from one classroom to the other, please. So those are the only two kind of rules besides leave your mask on. Thank you. Alyssa.
Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. I use she, they pronouns and am a co-coordinator with Alyssa at the Education Justice Coalition. I am going to explain our care team. Anyone who is on the care team, can you stand up, wave, and who's on the care team? Andres, there are Inika. So anyone wearing a green bandana is on the care team. Their information is also in the program. If you have not seen the program yet, it is on the schedule and map paper that you received when you first walked in. If you don't have one, ask us for one. And there is a QR code on that schedule and map paper, and that will send you to the program with a bunch of helpful information, including who is on the care team, and just like their bios and phone numbers. The care team is there to help you like process something if harm happens, and to help you regulate if you feel dysregulated. So they are around for you, and that is it. I'm gonna pass to Alyssa.
I'm gonna go over the conference schedule. Okay, so we are doing the announcements and keynote. We tried to build in some transition time between workshops. The first workshop starts at 11:15. Then there's some transition to lunch where people will get lunch. And then there's optional lunch groups, which you can find information online or on the walls by the cafeteria. We have a second round of workshops, and then we're excited to add this year a regional connecting activity. And you can find information for your regional connecting activity on that one pager. And yeah, thanks everyone for being here. And I'm passing it to.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm a youth coordinator at Education Justice Coalition.
Good morning, I'm Ayushma. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a youth facilitator with EdgeCo.
And I'm Eliza. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm also a youth facilitator here.
Okay, to get you going and have some conversations, we're gonna do some neighbor conversations.
So turn to your neighbor or two, and you're going to be answering the question, what are you looking forward to for this event, or what is something you want to learn?
If you're not sitting next to someone, please try to find at least two people. Thank you.
No, 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 no. I thought. Okay, 1 minute warning.
Okay. But you can find your way back.
Okay, we're gonna do one last question to kind of get to know your neighbors. So if you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what would it be? So pick a good one. Okay.
Find a new neighbor. A new neighbor. Someone you haven't talked to yet. No, Now we're going to be handing the mic to. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for that check-in. Hi, everyone. My name is Maisie Frankie. I'm a current first year at UVM, and this is my second year organizing this conference with Education Justice Coalition. So awesome. We are so excited to host a panel about coalition building and working across differences to make transformative change. This panel is hosted by Mikaela Simms. Mikaela is a co-director of Spark Teacher Education Institute and has been working as Wyndham Southeast Unified Union School District Director of Equity and Social Justice for 15 years. She arrived in Vermont by way of the San Francisco Bay Area in Guinea, West Africa, where she taught middle school with an emphasis on social justice. In her current roles, she emphasizes humanizing every situation and making connections across disciplines and other dividing lines. Our job as educators is to be curious about every human, student, and colleague. It is through deep inquiry that we learn about ourselves and the equitable world we wish to build. We're so excited to be hosting this panel, and thank you to Mikaela. So I'm going to pass it off to the conversation.
All right, I'm good. Good morning, everyone. How you feeling?
Bonjour tout le monde, comment vous allez ce matin?
So I'm going to say collective power, and I want y'all to say collective liberation. liberation. Are y'all ready? All right, collective power. Collective power. Collective power. All right, all right. That means that we have to make some changes today. Like, we can't leave this building with the world the same. So let's
On va
all
faire quelques changements ce matin. On ne va pas quitter ce building sans pour autant avoir changé quelque chose dans nos vies.
Eli Clare, rebel rouses and dreams of liberation. Let's welcome Eli. We also have Geoffrey Winder with us. Did I mispronounce your name? An intersectional organizer and national voice advocating for education justice for LGBTQ2S youth, using cross-sector alliances and movement building to impact education policy during his tenure as co-executive director of the GSA network from 2015 to 2022. And last and definitely not least, we have Shineika with us. Fareus, I did not know how to say your last name. The co-founder of Hearing Youth Voices and current executive director of Connecticut Black and Brown Student Union. Welcome. So we're excited to have these three wonderful people with us. And just so you know, Geoffrey, we didn't get the chance to talk to you beforehand, but that this will be kind of a conversation and so we're gonna start with you with each question. And anytime you feel like you need to interject, you just unmute yourself, child, and just say what you need to say. We'll hear you, we are ready. Is that all right?
Yeah, don't give me permission to unmute myself.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's a little echoey. Do you want to say something again, Geoffrey?
How are you all this morning?
The mic.
Should we be all right now?
Should be. Those two mics will have to just switch on and off so they don't crowd each other.
Oh, okay. Geoffrey, you want to go ahead again? Just to test the sound.
Dare I?
Can y'all hear Geoffrey? Can't hear.
No, you can't hear me at all?
Not really. Everyone on Zoom can hear Geoffrey.
Try one more time.
One more time. Good morning, Geoffrey.
Good morning.
Geoffrey?
It's quiet, but we can hear. He can't hear us now? You can hear us?
Oh, I can hear you in all the echoes. Yep.
Okay.
On peut vous entendre, mais il y a un écho très fort derrière.
Oh, I think you guys need to turn that. Mute this?
Shall I try again? Now we can't hear, or I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I thought the eclipse was over. Cool. Well, maybe I'll just get.
All right, tell us about yourself and why you do your work.
And you can feel free to drop the questions in the chat. Cool. So my name's Geoffrey Winder. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm echoing in from a lonely land that we currently call Oakland. And I'm the former co-executive director of Genders and Sexualities Alliance Network, GSA Network, which works to support high school LGBTQ youth. And before that, I started my high school GSA club many years ago. And so my work in sort of my life as well has been around navigating and finding place for and spaces in which sort of intersectional organizing can and does happen. And really seeing sort of the arc of how we do organizing and how we think about our work as being sort of connected uh, in a sort of larger I'll say collective struggle, which is also the name of the company that I currently work at to support shared leadership as a counter to some of the ways in which individualism and leadership go wrong. But that aside, I'm really happy to be here and talking about how we can think about education and particularly the concept of education justice in the broadest sort of aspects possible, looking at what does liberatory education sort of really mean when we get to the end of this collective struggle that we're in.
Probably all over the country pre-pandemic. We'll see what traveling means now. I have spent really my entire adult life as a community builder, building community both within home places for me, within the LGBTQ community and disability communities, but also community building across differences in coalition. And doing this work has meant staying connected to dreams of peace and justice, of dreaming deep peace and justice. But as a dreamer, I am much more connected to my no's than my yeses. And I find my yeses happening in coalition work. My no's are really easy. It's an end to shame and an end to violence. But what are our yeses? Liberation is more than a collection of no's, and I feel like what motivates my work is what are our yeses? Okay?
Good morning. Y'all are a little quiet. Good morning. There you go. I know they fed y'all, so there's some energy in the room. My name is Shineika, je m'appelle Shineika Fareus, et aujourd'hui c'est un réel plaisir d'être ici avec vous. My name is Shineika, and it is a privilege to be here with you all today. And I am coming here all the way from Connecticut. Do y'all know where Connecticut is? Just kidding. Sometimes you'll be like, Connecticut, where's that? And I have been in this work for the past decade or so, and I do this work in coalition, right? So just to think about, take a step back, my family's from Haiti, hence why I speak French a little bit. And any Haitians in the room? Yeah, thank you, we're here. And this conversation is so relatable because talking about coalition work, our slogan is L'Union fait la force and unity is strength. And as we do this work, as we are freedom fighters, as we are movement builder, we can't think about how we can achieve half the things that we want to achieve in this work without thinking about how we can do it collectively, right? And individually, we all bring many different types of skills that is a way for us to win and to build power. But we can't build power if we don't know how to work with each other. And we also can't build power if we're afraid of power. So I'm excited to be in this conversation today because coalition work is the reason why a lot of us are here today and a lot of us are able to continue to be movement builders. Because the people that came before us, our ancestors, they believed and understood the strength that came with understanding how we lean on each other when it's time for us to continue to look at how to win. And I'm excited to touch base on that a little bit more when we talk about winning, power, and coalition building, and what that means and what that looks like. All right, so Geoffrey, you hear me? All right, no echo, that's beautiful. Could you talk about your coalition work that you've done and what strengths and challenges are working in coalition?
All right. Good. Awesome. Yeah, so I think that before I became co-executive director at GSA Network, I ran our racial and economic justice programs. And that was really examining how could GSAs sort of be places where trans and queer youth of color also found an organizing home or a place to do their activism, and that the issues that we were working on were speaking to them. And this is part of a larger sort of effort to make sure that GSA clubs, Gender and Sexuality Alliance clubs, were as inclusive sort of as possible and sort of able to encompass the spectrum of folks that identified as LGBTQ. And so in that course of that work, uh, the issue of zero tolerance anti-bullying policies at the time was really a big popular thing. And simultaneously, there was a group called the Education Justice Alliance that was working to end zero tolerance policies because they disproportionately impacted Black and Brown students. And so the coalition work that I really did was so focused around sort of the coming together of the two groups around this particular issue, but then building out a lasting sort of coalition and solidarity from that experience together as organizations and as movements. And so that now really the Education Justice Alliance and GSA Network as organizations nationally are very sort of aligned. After I did my time at after I worked at GSA Network for as the co-executive director, I became the interim executive director at the Alliance for Educational Justice, and that's a national coalition of around 30 youth of color organizing groups around the country that are working on education justice issues. I really had no idea that you all were plotting and scheming up there in Vermont, or I would have plugged you in earlier, so sorry, but we'll get you plugged in after this. And that really, particularly in the issue of education, that the sort of the broadest set of coalitions could be built because there is such a interest for communities to have an education system that works for them and their children. And so within the context of doing education justice, I think that sort of all of the ways in which we're talking about and thinking about creating schools that work for and are designed to help Black and Brown and LGBTQ and students with disabilities sort of achieve. The possibility is there and the dream is there. And so there's within the education justice work, sort of both the issue and the fight, but then the very real sort of tangible dream that comes along with that. And recently within the last year, was super excited to work with the Connecticut Black and Brown Student Union around their victory. And so, yeah, just the education justice as a concept and as a movement is national, that you aren't alone sort of doing this work, that folks around the country are really grappling with these issues, and particularly trying to figure out how do we make schools work for the students that they serve now.
I met Geoffrey doing the Community First Coalition, and the Community First Coalition targets what it's like to look at how to make schools safer for students. It's reimagining school safety. And what does that mean? School safety looks different for a lot of different people, right? We have people, when they think of safety, they think of more guns in the schools. They think of police officers being present. They think of all the different ways in which school could look safer for them. But full transparency, school safety for me and for our coalition and the work that we do is, what does it look like to look at police-free schools, right? So we're a part of the National Police-Free School Coalition. And just a little side note, right? Like, police-free school doesn't mean no longer having an SRO in the building, right? Because the systems of policing exist regardless whether the SRO is present in the classrooms or in the school, right? Because a lot of times we can think that's the way of making schools safer, but the school to prison pipeline, it exists in a lot of schools in more ways than we would want it to, right? And what does it look like when there's a zero tolerance policy that exists? What does it look like when the Black student gets more of a punishment than her white peers that did the exact same thing, right? So these are all systems of policing that exist. So at the Community First Coalition in Connecticut, we look at all those factors that are impacting students in their learning. And a lot of the challenges that we came across, right? Unfortunately, sometimes it's a matter of wording and marketing. That's where all of us collectively is important. How many people here is in marketing? In communication, marketing, sort of. So you know the power of words and how you go about strategize is important. So the coalition existed since 2020, and we started doing a lot of work around what it's like to make school free of like policing. And every single time we would work in coalition with people, the organizing, the grassroots of it would be extremely successful. But when it would get to the part of the legislative aspect of it, to get the bill passed, we wouldn't even make it to the first steps of talking to policy to the legislators. And when I was hired as the organizing director at the Connecticut Black and Brown Student Union, which is how I started, we realized that I said, let's change the wording. Let's call it reimagining school safety, right? Connecticut is known for Newtown, where there was a massive school shooting that happened, so people feel very particular about having police officers in school. But one thing we can all agree with, despite of what we define as police-free schools, from what I mentioned earlier, is that we all feel very strongly about our perspective because we want students to be safe. So if we go from police-free schools, care not cops, where they don't feel like they're being attacked, right? And call it reimagining school safety, people were so much more open to have the conversation. Now, I'll tell you this, we had changed zero language on the bill itself. Nothing was changed. The only thing that was changed was the title of the bill. And people were willing to listen. People were willing to have conversation. So it's like, as we have these conversations, as we talk about what it's like to build coalition, what it's like to win. Part of me, the organizer in me was like, the firefighter in me was like, no, I don't want to change the language. I don't want to change the title because I want them to mean what I meant, what I said. And then one of my coalition members was like, but Shineika, you literally just got everything you want in the bill and more. The only thing that was changed was the title. And that's what it's like to work in coalition with people, because sometimes you face challenges where it feels like you're giving in, right? So what does it look like to compromise and without compromising your values? And I think in situations like that, that's where your coalition members come in, because there's a way to win and there's a way to have these conversations and to get what you want passed without having to compromise your values.
I want to move now from the idea of safety in schools to safety in the world. And I want to talk about coalition work I've done in the peace movement. I want to talk about a peace walk that I took almost 40 years ago. In 1986, 400 of us walked across the country from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. for global nuclear disarmament. And we were 400 very different people. We ranged from anarchists to feminists to middle of the road, just we need to vote the right man, and they were saying man into Congress. And it was hard. I want to say that coalition work can be hard. Coalition work does not feel like home. Denise Johnson Regan, Black feminist singer with Sweet Honey and the Rock, part of the freedom singers in the 1960s, wrote in an essay in the early 80s that if you're feeling comfortable, you're not doing coalition work. That coalition work, by definition, is uncomfortable and does not feel like home. Home spaces are another important space to organize in, but coalitions are often not home spaces. So the Great Peace March was one of those places where it was often not comfortable work. The peace work, the work of ending violence, the work of finding safety for everyone on the globe is work that needs everyone. It needs everyone. If I, the queer disabled person, was only working with other queer disabled people for peace, our failure would be guaranteed. Our failure would be guaranteed, and we cannot afford failure. So I was 23 on the peace walk, and one of the things I learned about coalition is working across difference meant that we could implement dozens and dozens of different kinds of strategies, because different people had different skills and knowledges and connections, and those multiple strategies were really important. And sometimes those strategies contradict each other. Sometimes we want to say, we're doing this, but not that. I want to say we need all the strategies. And 4 years later, I'm thinking of war again. I'm thinking of Israeli bombs funded by US dollars falling in Gaza right now. peace work, social justice work is such long haul work, measured not in years, but in decades and in centuries. And one of the ways that long haul work is made possible is through coalition.
So Geoffrey, how has working in coalition strengthened your vision for justice?
Yeah, thank you so much, and really appreciating the sort of intergenerational perspective on this panel. And I think sort of my formative years were at the beginning of the Iraq War. My first day of college was September 11th. And so I think that yes, the ways in which history sort of re reinvents itself and replays itself is interesting. And I think that sort of looking at the ways in which coalitions have happened in the past, particularly around ending wars. But I think sort of education is another one of those broad issues where so much of us have our stake bound up in what happens. And I guess I'll tell a little bit of a story. So when I first started doing the work with the Alliance for Educational Justice, I was working with this guy who was the organizer there, and his name was Mustafa Sullivan. And so we were emailing and talking and emailing and talking. And probably for the first 6 months, he thought I was a white person and I thought he was a straight person. And so then when we found out that we were both queer Black people, that it really became a very different conversation about the work. And so I guess one of the things that gives me hope is that there are always points of commonality, even in sort of the most diverse sort of ways in which we see ourselves or categorize ourselves, and that the ways in which we've been trained to see difference or to sort of identify who, or think about who would be our allies or who would be sort of hard to align with, that those are also sort of constructs that we need to interrogate and make sure that so what we're projecting is not, or is the confirm or not whatever our assumptions are, but sort of in that the ability to have I would say that the GSA movement and the work that the GSA network does now around policies that sort of intersect with racial and gender justice in schools is much more powerful than the work that we were doing before, just as a sort of safe schools movement for LGBT students and sort of the very strict definition of what that work looked like.
Thank you so much. How has coalition work strengthened my vision for justice? Yes, that's an intense question. But Ellie mentioned earlier that doing coalition work can be hard, right? And I want to echo that again, that coalition work is hard. How many of us have had to do a group project before? Yeah, same. How many of us have done a group project with people you did not like? Exactly. That's what it's like doing coalition work. But how many of you have done coalition work with people that you have liked? Yeah, so doing coalition work is basically like you become it's like the adult version, but not really the adult version, because you do it a lot of times with young people and intergenerationally, with teachers, professors, all of the above, right? So, but the best way to explain coalition work is basically doing like a major group project with just different people with very different perspectives. But there's a common ground, and the common ground is that project that you're working on, right? In this case being whichever campaign that you're passionate about that you're doing in that exact moment. But I love doing coalition work because when we look at the vision, when I look at the vision of why I do coalition work, it's something way beyond my imagination, right? It's looking at it in a ways of you are planting seeds
And the sad thing about doing movement work is that you're planting seeds that you may never see flourish. But something about that brings so much joy and so much peace because we know there's a greater purpose. Because we understand that I understand that I'm able to be here and I'm able to have these conversations because someone before me planted a seed that now I can see flourish and that I can continue to plant more because I believe in the future, right? So that's justice to me when I think of justice. What does it look like? It's not the definition that's written when we look at the legal documents, because we know how that goes for a lot of people, whether you're queer, whether you're Black, whether you're disabled, whether you're an immigrant, we know that the definition of justice doesn't always fit us all. But as movement builders, we have created a definition of justice for us. And what does it look like for all of us to be in community with each other? Because in reality, it's like the justice looks like, Geoffrey, I actually would have never thought of it from that perspective because that's not where my family is from and that's not how I understand it. But I'm open-minded to have the conversation to figure out how we can come together and make it work for all of us. And that's the beauty of doing coalition work. And as we continue to do that though, there are certain things that about us as individuals that would feel like core values that sometimes clash and feels hard. So how does that then straighten justice? When me and Geoffrey reach a point where we disagree. And a lot of times, sadly, the disagreement does break coalition. Because I can get to a point where I say, I feel very strongly about where I stand on this, and Geoffrey feels very strongly in his perspective. Hence why a lot of times coalitions fall apart. But a lot of times coalitions go through works like that, and it makes them stronger. And that's the piece of it I want us to focus on right now today. What does it look like despite our differences, despite our different values, to figure out the ways to come together to grow coalition and make it work and strengthen the way we see justice? Because from my perspective as the organizing director at the Connecticut Black and Brown Student Union then, I was running a coalition of 13 people, 13 groups from all across Connecticut. And those groups are anywhere from policy work, policy justice organizations, very focused, and we know the difference between policy work and organizing. A lot of times those two worlds can clash, a lot. But here we are, a coalition of all these individuals, grassroots and policy, grassroots and grasstops working together. And despite the messy history, what continues to give us hope and how to win this campaign, which we did, we won. What continues to give us hope is to understand that at the end of the day as an organizer, if a parent comes to me and tell me how her student, her child, is being treated at school, and I look at the law, I look at the policy, and I see that even though the parent reported it to the principal, there's nothing the principal can do because the law is in their court, it's on their court, it's in their favor, right? Where policy and organizing comes together is we know we can do the grassroots work, right? But what does it look like for us to actually change policy? Because I can't fully advocate for that parent until I know that there's something that's in our favor to then be able to say, look, here's where that's wrong and here's how we're going to change it. Because we need each other. We need each other to get the work done. But we have to be able to understand each other's perspective and our point of view and how we do work. So coalition work in this way brings two very unfamiliar worlds together. On the sake of what? For the purpose of what? For the purpose of justice. Because at the end of the day, we want to see what a just world looks like for our students, for our community, and we can't continue to do that fighting each other every single day. The fight is healthy. Conflict is good. I just want us to remember that. A lot of times we see conflict as a terrible thing. Conflict is good. So as we do this work and as we think of justice and what it looks like, it's not a world free of conflict. It's actually a world full of conflict, but we navigate what it's like to move past the conflict. And that's what's going to get us to win.
Thank you for that reminder about conflict. And I think I want to talk about coalition building in spaces that seem like a single community. I want to talk about conflict in LGBTQIA plus spaces. I want to talk about conflict in disability communities where there is so much difference coming together, where both the word disability and that acronym LGBTQIA plus are coalition in and of themselves. And coalition work inside those groups become really important, dealing with the conflict, dealing with the tensions between trans and non-binary folks and lesbians and gay men who want to say that trans people aren't welcome. The tensions in disability communities between folks with intellectual disability and folks with physical disability, those tensions are really real. And to come together to work in coalition for justice, for an end to ableism, for an end to homophobia, for an end to transphobia, and for an end to white supremacy and racism means not letting our differences become more important than the work we need to do. And so I think its strength is to take the conflict on, head on. Don't avoid the conflict. Don't pretend the conflict doesn't exist. Because if we pretend it doesn't exist, it's there everywhere. There's no chance for change if we pretend it doesn't exist. People with intellectual disabilities are always going to become the last priority if this tension isn't addressed head on again and again and again. Talked about, stories told about it. Leadership from the most impacted. Leadership. Who's leading the coalition? Are the coalitions we create being led by the people with the most privilege in the room? Or are they being led by the people with the least privilege in the room? Who sets the agenda in the coalition? I come from organizing that said that when agendas are set by the people who are most impacted, that agenda is going to be the most powerful for everyone in this space. So just this idea that coalition exists on a lot of different levels, and each of those levels there's going to be difference that creates conflict, and that conflict, if addressed, can become one of our strengths, because we learn how to move through conflict. And Dan, this world needs to know how to move through conflict. That's not about police. That's not about prisons. That's not about war. That is not about social control. We need to know how to move through conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you all for reminding us of the beauty of struggle, and without the friction, we wouldn't have these beautiful green mountains that we're surrounded by. So that even in nature, that conflict, that friction is necessary for growth and for change. And what you said, Eli, is very much connected to our next question, which is that it's often said that great individuals change the world. And how do we move beyond that individualism, those individual social identities, in coalitions, and use them as kind of a catalyst? Geoffrey, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Yes, I have been in many coalitions. Sort of one that I'm deeply part of is Dignity in Schools Campaign California, and it was run by 5 executive directors. And if you can imagine 5 executive directors in a room, that is a whole bunch of personalities and a whole bunch of people that think they're right and used to being in charge. And so I think that for me, thinking about how we do the hard work, right? And this coalition, we met every Thursday at 9 a.m. for 2 hours. So it was a commitment. And we did not all come from the same perspective. We all sort of had our own organizing philosophies and ways about doing things. And so part of our sort of magic was that we never shied away from conflict. That was the place I got heard. Geoffrey, you're wrong the most. And I think that part of that was the belief in sort of each other, and that all of us were there for the reason, the vision that we all shared, that we all respected each other in their own sort of rights and what they brought to the conversation as either strategists or tacticians or leaders, and that we stayed open to never being wed to any one of our ideas, because always whatever came out of the sort of friction or the collective struggle through disagreement always resulted in something better or more complex or more nuanced. And so I think that the ways in which we think about and navigate leadership in particular, but the ways in which we construct our spaces and our coalitions should be around the concept of a shared leadership, where that we are looking for sort of everyone's best ideas, and that we have a structure that accommodates and builds space for sort of everyone to be included in the conversation, and really just sort of hammering home Eli's point around just wanting to make sure that the ways in which we think about solutions are also solutions for the most impacted folks are the solutions that will also be solutions for everyone.
Go. You called, Shineika, go.
Hey, y'all. So I think the best way to answer this question for me is just to think of it of like, it is so easy when I, Shineika, just go to a police station right now or anywhere, and I say, I'm standing in solidarity for X, Y, and Z. You know how it is for me to get arrested right there and right here and there? Like, I'm an easy target, right? So it doesn't matter what skill that I have, how many campaigns I've won, like how many protests I've led, it doesn't matter. As an individual, I'm not as powerful as I think I am. So whether I am the president of the United States, if Biden was out here right now, or let's use Trump as an example. Think of the ways that people view Trump right now, like in all the chaos that has been caused in the world. If he was to appear anywhere right now without security and without a team of people with him, what would happen to him next would look very differently than if he was there with his team of people, right? So I think the way I think of it is like, it doesn't matter how powerful you are as an individual. As an executive director, I'm not the best executive director if I don't have a badass team, right? If I don't have the communications person, if I don't have the operations person, if I don't have the grant writer, if I don't have a successful team, my leadership is then not successful. So yes, a lot of times as individuals, we have great skills, but those skills are so much more powerful when we do it in community. I can't think of a single individual that it's like they made it because of simply themselves. You just can't. You look back in our history, our people and our ancestors made it, my ancestors made it because they believe in collective power. And if we don't believe in collective power, we have no place doing this work. Because it's not about me. As much as I want to believe it's about me, it's not. Like when you look at the map and the people most impacted by the systems of injustice, when you look at how deep and how far the system goes, me as an individual, I'm just barely a dot on the map. Unfortunately, when you look at our prison system, me as an individual and the people I know that has been impacted by it is just a dot, right? So when I look back in my campaign, it doesn't matter what skills I had as an individual, me as Shineika, right? What made this campaign powerful and winnable was because of the people I was in coalition with. When I go speak to a legislator, they might see me, but guess what? I have a team of people who make the one-pager. I have a team of people who make the Excel sheet to reach out to and make the phone calls to tell the people that they have to sign up to testify. I have a group of lobbyists. There is so much more to just Shineika than just Shineika. Like I come from a generation and roots of people who believed in my leadership. So when I go into places and I think about movement work, it is successful because of the collective aspect of it. Like as individuals, we are not as powerful. I know it sounds very crazy to say, but in this work, I literally had a mentor told me, they were like, it's not about you. They're like, you think you're important? Like you're sad because X, Y, and Z is the story of your life? Look around you. Look at the people impacted by it, because that's how you create bad leadership. If you think as the individual, that's how you're going to win. You're the purpose. It's me, 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 me. Then you create the type of leadership that people do not want to work around. And then moving forward, you can't win because people don't want to work with you. And that's not the mindset to do in coalition work. As we continue to have this conversation, as we go throughout the day today and think about how to win, the way to win, if there was one person in this room right now thinking that I am the face and the head of that movement, I'm sorry to break it to you, but no, you're not. No, you're not. Because at the end of the day, you're able to be you. You're able to do the things that you do because of the people that believe in you. And if there's no one that wants to follow your leadership, and if there's no one that wants to stand behind you as an individual, you're not a leader. Because leaders are not made by themselves alone. They're made by the people who believe in them. So as we think of coalition work, remember that it's not about the individual, it's about the collective.
All right. Yes. You want to add something to what you said before? No. We want to hear what you have to say. That's right, come on.
Thank you for all of that. And yes. And I'm going to take this conversation down to the individual level. How can we be connected to collective harm when we are told every friggin' day that the most important thing is us as individuals? We live in a culture that says individual. White supremacy, that is white supremacy in action. So I want to suggest 3 things we can do every day to be less individual and more collective. One is to be generous. We cannot do coalition work and collective liberation without being generous, without being flexible. At the same time, we need to be friggin' fierce. Generous and fierce, not opposites. Both generous and fierce. We need to add to that generosity and that ferocity accountability. Accountability to our ancestors, to our children's families, to our communities. Accountability to the folks most similar to us and the folks who are the most different from us. Accountable across chasms of power and privilege, particularly those of us who are privileged by systems of oppression. So generous, fierce, and accountable are three ways of moving away from the individualism that we breathe in the air every friggin' day, and move towards collective liberation and collective power at every moment possible.
Thank you so much. Thank you all three of you for being with us today. I wish we had time for questions. We don't, but we can end with your words. Generous, fierce, and accountable. And I just think about how we fight our individual complicity and our collective complicity in things like war, like what's happening right now in Palestine. Like what are we gonna do? And this is a great time for us together to think about, we have all day together to think about how we're gonna do things and what we can do differently when we leave here today. We're gonna do an announcement. We have Separate here who's gonna make an announcement, and then we're gonna do a chant to get us energized, and then we're gonna transition. Is that all right? All right.
Hi, everyone.
So you have to turn it on, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. So just a quick one. If you are here and you are a social justice fighter and you want equitable opportunities for everybody, especially the people that we are all revolving around, which is people with disabilities. I have a session today in the afternoon. That is my session. That is for everyone from VCI, Vermont Center for Independent Living. I work across the state for all students between the ages of 14 to 26. Secondly, if you don't have this book, which talks about me, my life as a Black woman with disabilities, and other intersectionalities, please get one before you go. It is roaming around Vermont in all schools. If you don't have it as a DEI professor or a teacher or student, because I have some of the students who read this book already and were like, oh, I saw you in my school. Please get one because we need it. Finally, I teach a course called Global Disability Studies at the University of Vermont. And this course is also for us because we want to share the news about what disability means to us. To some of us, they don't know. To us, it is part of our identity. It is part of our identity, and that is all that we know that everything that is happening around you and I, whether visible or invisible, that is the pivot we are all revolving around in terms of intersectionalities. Thank you so much, and I want to see you in the afternoon during my section. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, we have our chant. Got it? I'm gonna move over.
All right, y'all. I'm gonna bring in Asada Shakur a little bit. Can we stand up if you can? Yeah. We'll do it 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times. We'll start a little low, we'll get a little high, and then on the 3rd time, I wanna hear you give me all you got, okay? Can we do that? Yeah. All right. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is
We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Ashe.
All right now, thank y'all. Thank you, everyone. Any final things? Thank y'all. Have a great time. Nice to meet you.